My wife's brutal cheating and lies almost broke me. But the shocking twist led to her downfall and my ultimate redemption. Reddit confession. Alright, Reddit. I'm usually a lurker, but I'm at my absolute breaking point and need to get this off my chest. I don't even know where to begin or what kind of advice I'm looking for, but maybe just typing it all out will help. My life, my entire world, has been systematically dismantled by the one person I swore to spend forever with, my wife, Sarah. We've been married for 10 years, together for 12. On the surface, we were that couple everyone envied. The perfect house, good jobs, always laughing, posting those sickeningly sweet photos on social media. I honestly thought we had it all. Looking back now, the signs were probably there, subtle whispers I ignored or rationalized away because I loved her. She started getting busier at work, which in itself isn't a red flag, but it morphed into something else. Late nights became the norm, followed by her being irritable and distant when she finally did come home. Her phone was glued to her hand, face down on every surface, buzzing constantly with notifications she'd quickly dismiss. If I ever asked who it was, she'd snap, "Just work, Mark, relax. You're so paranoid sometimes." Her voice would have that edge, that condescending tone that made me feel small for even asking. Then there were the changes in her appearance. Suddenly, she was hitting the gym like a maniac, buying expensive new lingerie, and her wardrobe shifted from comfortable elegance to something sexier. She started wearing a new perfume, too, something musky and cloying that wasn't her usual light floral scent. When I complimented her or asked about the sudden change, she'd brush it off with a dismissive wave. "Just trying to stay in shape, darling." And I thought a change would be nice. "Are you saying I looked bad before?" Always turning it back on me, making me feel like the problem for noticing. I loved her, so I tried to believe her, tried to push down the growing knot of unease in my stomach. I just wanted my old Sarah back, the one who looked at me like I was her whole world, not with that blank, almost irritated expression she'd started wearing. The perfect picture was cracking, and I was too blind, too in love, to see the chasm forming beneath us. The breaking point came subtly, almost innocuously, but it shattered everything. Sarah had been working late again, claiming a big presentation was due. She'd left her work bag on the kitchen counter, which was unusual. She always took it straight to the office or her study. I was making myself some late-night tea, still feeling that dull ache of loneliness, when I noticed something gleaming in her bag, half hidden under a stack of papers. It was a receipt. Not just any receipt, but from a high-end jewelry store, the kind we could barely afford for my birthday, let alone a casual purchase. And the date, it was from last Tuesday, a day she'd sworn she was stuck in back-to-back meetings. The item listed was a men's watch, an expensive brand. My heart started thumping like a drum solo gone wrong. My rational brain, the one still clinging to the perfect marriage narrative, screamed, "It's a gift for you, idiot." But my gut, that raw, primal gut feeling that had been screaming for weeks, knew better. I hadn't received any expensive watches. We hadn't discussed any gifts. It was for a man. I tried to shake it off, tried to be Mark, the trusting husband. But then I saw another receipt, tucked even deeper. This one was for a ridiculously swanky boutique hotel, an overnight stay. Again, the date matched one of her late-night work sessions she'd conveniently forgotten to mention. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped the papers. The name on the reservation wasn't ours. It was Sarah K. And then Mr. D. Williams. Williams, a name I didn't recognize, a first initial that wasn't mine. The air left my lungs in a rush. It wasn't just a fling, not a moment of weakness. This was calculated, planned, involving expensive gifts and secret getaways. My mind raced back through every late night, every work trip, every time she'd pulled away from my touch. The puzzle pieces, the ones I'd stubbornly refused to look at, suddenly clicked into a grotesque, undeniable picture. It was like getting punched in the stomach, then having the wind knocked out of you, and then realizing the person punching you was your own wife. The betrayal hit me with a physical force that made my knees buckle. I sank onto the kitchen floor, the receipts crumpled in my fist, the scent of her new perfume, which suddenly seemed to mock me, filling the room. I don't know how long I sat there, probably hours, just staring blankly at the cold kitchen tiles, the receipts clutched so tightly my knuckles were white. The world around me felt muted, like I was underwater, everything distorted and far away. When Sarah finally came home, it was almost 2 a.m. She walked in, chirpy and annoyingly cheerful, humming some pop song. "Hey, babe," she said, brightly, not even noticing me until she walked into the kitchen and saw me on the floor. Her face visibly stiffened, the cheerfulness dissolving into a guarded frown. "Mark, what are you doing down there? Are you okay? You look awful." "Awful," I croaked, my voice sounding alien, hoarse and ragged. I slowly stood up, my body feeling heavy and foreign, like I was moving through thick mud. I extended my hand, unfolding the crumpled receipts and holding them out to her. "Do these look awful to you, Sarah?" Her eyes darted from my face to the papers, and I watched, transfixed, as the color drained from her face. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. The mask of indifference, of just work, finally crumbled. For a split second, I saw a flicker of something real. Panic, perhaps, or even a sliver of guilt. But it was fleeting. Almost immediately, her chin jutted out, and her eyes hardened. "What is this, Mark? Snooping through my bag now? Seriously? That's a new low, even for you and your ridiculous paranoia." Her voice was cold, sharp, dripping with contempt. "Paranoia?" I laughed, a harsh, humorless sound that tore at my throat. "You call an expensive watch for a man who isn't me, and an overnight stay at a luxury hotel with Mr. D. Williams paranoia? Sarah, what the hell have you been doing?" She folded her arms across her chest, her posture defiant. "Oh, for crying out loud. It's not what you think. That watch, it's for a client. A big one. I was trying to impress him, trying to get his business. And the hotel? It was a business meeting, an all-nighter with a team. Mr. Williams is a colleague from another branch. You know how important this contract is for my career." Her lies, so smooth and practiced, were an insult. A client? For a men's watch from that store? A business meeting at that hotel with Mr. D. Williams? And she didn't mention any of this to me? The sheer audacity of her deceit, the way she looked at me like I was the fool for even questioning her, ignited a fresh wave of fury that burned through the shock and pain. "Don't you dare lie to me, Sarah," I whispered, the words laced with pure venom. "Don't you dare." My world was crumbling, and she was still trying to gaslight me in its wreckage. The confrontation escalated quickly, dissolving into a chaotic mess of shouts and accusations. Her lies grew more outlandish, more desperate. "Mark, you're being utterly ridiculous. Do you know how much pressure I'm under at work? And you choose now to accuse me of this? You're ruining everything." She even started crying, those fake, manipulative tears, claiming I was always so suspicious, always trying to control her, never trusting her. She tried to turn it around, making me the villain, painting me as the insecure, jealous husband. "Who is D. Williams, Sarah?" I demanded, my voice raw from screaming. "Tell me the truth, just once." "He's nothing, Mark. He's just a rebound. Someone I met because you've been so distant, so wrapped up in your own world." She spat back, her eyes blazing, the fake tears suddenly gone. The truth, finally, but warped, twisted into an accusation against me. My distanceness, which was really just me giving her space when she claimed she was stressed, was now justification for her betrayal. The sheer audacity of her statement, throwing my perceived shortcomings in my face as an excuse for her infidelity, felt like a physical blow. Rebound? After 10 years of marriage? My mind reeled. It wasn't just a mistake, it was a choice. A choice she made because I wasn't good enough. The anger was so intense it felt like my veins were on fire. I wanted to smash something, anything, just to release the pressure building inside me. But then, just as suddenly as the fury came, it was replaced by a hollow, aching emptiness. It was like someone had reached inside my chest and ripped out my heart, leaving a gaping, bloody void. The woman standing before me, the one who had just confessed to treating me as a mere placeholder, wasn't the Sarah I knew or thought I knew. She was a stranger, a cruel imposter. The image of our life together, our shared dreams, our vows, it all flickered and died, like a candle snuffed out in a violent gust of wind. The tears started then, not the angry, frustrated tears, but deep, gut-wrenching sobs that shook my entire body. I wasn't just sad. I was utterly, irrevocably broken. I felt a sense of loss so profound it transcended anything I'd ever experienced. My best friend, my confidant, my lover, my wife, gone. Replaced by this venomous, deceitful woman. And the worst part? She didn't even seem to care as I stood there, utterly devastated, in the ruins of our life. She just watched me, a cold, almost triumphant look in her eyes. It was over. Every single thing was over. The following days were a blur of unimaginable pain and disbelief. I moved onto the couch, unable to bear being in the same bed as her, the same room. Every glance at her, every casual word she uttered, felt like a fresh wound. She went from cold defiance to a strange, almost bored indifference. There were no apologies, no real attempts at reconciliation, just terse demands about logistics, who would take the car, what to do about dinner. It was like I was living with a roommate, a hostile one, not the woman I'd spent a decade of my life loving. The emotional impact was devastating. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. The taste of betrayal was a metallic tang on my tongue, and the images of her with another man played on an endless loop in my mind, each one a fresh stab to my already bleeding heart. The shock wore off, replaced by a relentless cycle of anger, then profound sadness, then a creeping sense of worthlessness. Was I not enough? Was I so boring, so unlovable, that she had to seek excitement elsewhere? My self-esteem cratered, hitting rock bottom. I questioned everything about myself, everything about our relationship. Was it all a lie from the beginning? I started isolating myself. My friends called, my family texted, but I couldn't bring myself to talk to anyone. How could I explain this? How could I articulate the feeling of my entire world being ripped out from under me by the person who promised to protect it? The loneliness was suffocating, an almost physical weight on my chest. I'd wander the house at night, like a ghost in my own home, picking up photos of us, pictures of happy moments, now tainted and twisted. The laughter in those photos seemed to mock me, a cruel reminder of what I thought we had, what I thought she was. There were moments of pure, unadulterated rage, where I wanted to confront her again, scream, demand answers, make her feel a fraction of the pain she had inflicted. But what was the point? Her confession, if you could even call it that, had been so dismissive, so flippant. It showed me exactly where I stood in her eyes. Nowhere. I was just an obstacle, a comfort blanket she had grown tired of. The acceptance that she was gone, truly gone, began to set in, a cold, hard lump in my gut. It wasn't just the marriage that was over. It was a fundamental part of me that had died. I was adrift, untethered, and completely lost. This wasn't just a breakup. It was an amputation without anesthetic. The decision on how to move forward wasn't a sudden epiphany. It was a slow, agonizing crawl out of the abyss. For a while, I just existed in a fog, going through the motions. But then, one morning, I woke up, and the overwhelming sadness was still there, but beneath it, a tiny ember of something else flickered, cold, clear resolve. I looked at Sarah across the breakfast table. She was meticulously applying makeup, humming again, completely oblivious to the hurricane raging inside me, and it hit me. I deserved better. So much better. This wasn't just about her betrayal. It was about her complete lack of remorse, her casual cruelty. There was no working on it. No possibility of saving anything. She had destroyed it all, systematically and unapologetically. My first step was practical. I called a lawyer. A close friend, a straight shooter, recommended a brilliant divorce attorney. Making that call felt like signing my own death warrant and simultaneously like drawing my first breath in weeks. The lawyer, a no-nonsense woman named Brenda, listened patiently as I recounted the entire sordid tale, her expression unreadable. She just nodded, scribbled notes, and then laid out the options. It wasn't going to be easy, especially with someone like Sarah. The next thing I did was surprisingly therapeutic. I gathered every single photo of us, every sentimental trinket she'd given me, and meticulously, calmly, put them into a box. It wasn't about erasing her, but about reclaiming my space, both physical and emotional. I changed the locks on our shared office, changed the passwords to everything. I started sleeping in our bed again, but on my side, leaving her side pointedly empty. I put up a mental wall between us. I stopped responding to her passive-aggressive comments, her attempts to bait me. She noticed. Her humming stopped. Her casual indifference began to fray, replaced by irritation. I also started talking to my closest friend, Dave. I finally broke down and told him everything. He just listened, didn't offer platitudes, just sat with me, occasionally putting a hand on my shoulder. That conversation, simply being heard and believed, was a lifeline. It pulled me back from the brink of total isolation. I realized I wasn't alone, even though it felt like it. The decision to divorce was solidifying, not just as a reaction to her infidelity, but as a commitment to myself, to my own healing and future. This wasn't going to be a clean break, I knew that. Sarah wasn't the type for amicable partings, but it was going to be my break on my terms. I was taking back control. The legal proceedings started, and as expected, Sarah turned into a completely different monster. All pretense of indifference vanished, replaced by seething resentment and vindictiveness. Her lawyer started sending nasty letters, accusing me of everything from emotional abuse to financial mismanagement. It was a scorched earth strategy, designed to make me buckle, to make me feel as small and worthless as she wanted me to be. She even tried to claim I was the one who had been cheating, twisting every instance of me working late or going out with friends into some elaborate, fabricated affair. The audacity was truly breathtaking, but I was ready for it. Brenda, my lawyer, was a pit bull, calmly refuting every wild accusation with facts and evidence. I had started a detailed journal, documenting everything, every lie, every instance of her gaslighting, every financial discrepancy I could find. It helped, not just legally, but emotionally, to track the reality of her behavior versus her distorted narrative. The emotional toll was still immense. I'd have good days, where I felt strong and resolute, and then terrible days, where the anger and pain would resurface, a tidal wave threatening to drown me. I started seeing a therapist, which was one of the best decisions I made. She helped me process the grief, the anger, and most importantly, the self-blame. She reminded me that her choices were hers alone, and not a reflection of my worth. During this period, I made a conscious effort to rebuild. I started working out again, pushing myself physically to exhaust the emotional turmoil. I reconnected with old friends, went hiking, got back into hobbies I'd abandoned during our marriage because Sarah had deemed them boring. Each small step, each reclaimed piece of my life, felt like a victory. I wasn't just surviving, I was actively working on healing. The revenge I sought wasn't about hurting her back, not directly anyway. It was about becoming stronger, happier, and more whole than I ever was with her. It was about proving to myself that I could not only survive this, but thrive despite her best efforts to destroy me. It was about denying her the satisfaction of seeing me broken. That, I realized, was the most brutal revenge I could take. The realization was empowering. Hey everyone, if you're finding this story cathartic or helpful, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to my channel. It really helps me out, and I've got more raw, honest content coming your way. The legal battle dragged on for months, a slow, grinding war of attrition. Sarah, fueled by bitterness, refused to settle anything amicably. She wanted to hurt me, to take everything she could, and then some. She fought over trivial things, tried to claim sentimental items that meant nothing to her, but everything to me, just to be cruel. The money wasn't even the point for her anymore. It was about control, about inflicting maximum damage. She even started showing up at my office building, accidentally bumping into me, sometimes with D. Williams in tow, just to rub it in. The smug look on her face, the way she'd introduce him as her partner, was designed to make me crack. But I didn't. I had learned to channel my anger into quiet strength. Every time she tried to provoke me, I just met her with a calm, almost detached politeness. It infuriated her, I could see it. My lawyer Brenda, bless her, was a master at navigating Sarah's antics. We had solid evidence of her infidelity, which, while not always a slam dunk in divorce court, definitely helped with the narrative of her deceit and hostile behavior, particularly when it came to financial disclosures and asset division. Then came the unexpected twist. Remember that expensive watch she bought for D. Williams? And the luxury hotel stays? It turns out D. Williams wasn't just some colleague or a random fling. He was her boss. Not just her direct supervisor, but a high-ranking executive at her company. The implications of this were enormous. It wasn't just a personal betrayal, it was a professional one. Their affair was actually a serious breach of company policy, bordering on sexual harassment given the power dynamic. One of D. Williams's disgruntled former assistants, who had witnessed a lot of their inappropriate behavior and had her own axe to grind, anonymously tipped off Brenda with some damning evidence. Internal company emails, photos from work trips that were clearly romantic getaways, and even some expense reports where they tried to pass off their dates as legitimate business meetings. This information completely changed the game. It wasn't just about my broken marriage anymore. It was about professional misconduct, potentially fraudulent expense reporting, and a very public scandal waiting to happen. The tables had turned, and Sarah, for all her bravado, was now in a very precarious position. My quiet resolve was paying off in spades. The revelation about D. Williams being her boss and the subsequent evidence felt like a literal bomb dropping. Brenda, my lawyer, wasted no time. She didn't go straight to the company initially. Instead, she used this information to strategically corner Sarah and her legal team. The next mediation session was tense, to say the least. Sarah walked in with her usual smug smirk, but it quickly faltered when Brenda calmly, almost clinically, laid out the evidence, not just of the affair, but of the professional misconduct, the expense report fraud, and the power dynamic implications. The color drained from Sarah's face. Her lawyer, a smarmy man who had been echoing Sarah's wild accusations for months, looked absolutely aghast. He clearly hadn't been privy to the full extent of her business activities. Brenda made it clear, if Sarah continued to drag her feet, to play dirty, or to demand exorbitant settlements, all of this evidence would go straight to D. Williams's company's HR department and, potentially, the press. The company was publicly traded, and a scandal involving a high-ranking executive and a subordinate, particularly one involving fraudulent expenses, would be catastrophic for both of them. Sarah finally broke. Her carefully constructed facade shattered. She started hyperventilating, her eyes wide with a genuine terror I hadn't seen in months. All her bitchiness, her lies, her cold indifference, melted away, revealing the fear beneath. D. Williams wasn't just her lover. He was her career lifeline, her ticket to the better life she thought she deserved. Exposing him would ruin both of them. The negotiations shifted immediately. Suddenly, her demands became reasonable. Her lawyer was practically begging for discretion. I watched her, a hollow feeling in my chest. This wasn't the kind of revenge I had initially envisioned in my darkest moments. Not the brutal, physical kind. But seeing her completely stripped of her power, her manipulation, her smugness, facing the very real consequences of her actions, it was, in its own way, brutally satisfying. It wasn't about vengeance anymore, not really. It was about justice, about truth finally coming to light. And that, I realized, was far more potent. The divorce was finalized surprisingly quickly after that. Once Sarah realized the full extent of the mess she was in, and with Brenda playing hardball, she folded. She got a fair settlement, but nothing near what she had originally tried to extort from me. The house was mine, and I kept most of our shared assets. It felt less like a victory celebration and more like a profound sigh of relief. The constant tension, the legal battles, the emotional draining, it was all finally over. I never spoke to Sarah again after the final court date. She left the courtroom with her lawyer, eyes downcast, not even sparing me a glance. I heard through the grapevine, a few weeks later, that D. Williams had been quietly retired from his position, citing personal reasons. Sarah apparently lost her job shortly after, as part of a restructuring. The company, clearly, had moved swiftly to mitigate any potential scandal, and she was collateral damage. I felt no joy in hearing this, no triumphant glee, just a quiet sense of karmic balance. She had chosen her path, and now she was walking it. The emotional recovery, however, was a much longer journey. The divorce was the end of one battle, but the healing process for my heart and mind was just beginning. I continued with therapy, diligently working through the trauma of the betrayal. The anger slowly faded, replaced by a dull ache of sadness for what could have been, for the decade I had invested in a lie. But even that sadness lessened with time. I started focusing on myself again, truly focusing. I redecorated the house, painted over the memories, and made it truly mine. I traveled, spent time with friends and family who had patiently waited for me to reemerge, and even picked up some new hobbies. There were still moments when the bitterness would creep in, a dark whisper of what if or why me. But I learned to acknowledge those feelings, to sit with them, and then to let them go. I realized that holding on to hatred was like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It only hurt me. My revenge, in the end, wasn't about her destruction, but about my own reconstruction. It was about rebuilding my life on solid ground, free from her lies and deceit. And that, I found, was the most satisfying outcome of all. I was free. About a year passed, and life started to feel normal again. Not the normal of before, where I was constantly walking on eggshells around Sarah's moods, but a new, quieter, more authentic normal. The wounds were still there, faint scars on my heart, but they no longer bled. I even started dating again, cautiously, testing the waters. It was weird, putting myself out there after so long, after such a brutal experience. The trust issues were real, a heavy baggage I carried, but I was honest about my past. And I learned that genuine connection comes from vulnerability, not from hiding behind a facade of perfection. I even ran into Sarah once, completely by chance, at a grocery store in a different part of town. She looked different, gaunt, her expensive clothes replaced by something more worn, her once vibrant presence dimmed. She saw me, and for a moment, her eyes flashed with that familiar mix of defiance and something else, perhaps a flicker of regret or just bitter resentment. I just nodded, a small, polite acknowledgement, and moved on. There was no conversation, no drama. And surprisingly, I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no desire for retribution. Just a quiet confirmation that I had made the right choices for myself. The true resolution wasn't in her downfall, but in my own rising. I had lost a wife, yes, in a decade of my life. But I gained a profound understanding of myself, my resilience, and what I truly value in a partner. I learned that true love isn't about ignoring red flags or accepting endless lies. It's about mutual respect, honesty, and shared vulnerability. It's about building something real, not just a glossy image for social media. This journey taught me invaluable lessons. 1. Trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't let love blind you to clear warning signs. 2. Never compromise your self-worth for someone else's approval or comfort. And 3. Forgiveness isn't for the person who wronged you. It's for yourself, to release the burden of anger and pain. I haven't forgiven Sarah in the traditional sense, but I've released her from my life. And in doing so, I've forgiven myself for being hurt, for being naive, for staying too long. That's the real freedom. Seriously, if you've made it this far, thank you for reading. If you found any of this helpful or relatable, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Your support means the world. The peace I found wasn't just about moving on from Sarah, but about reconstructing my entire outlook on relationships and trust. For a long time, I questioned whether I could ever truly trust anyone again. Every kind gesture felt suspicious. Every late reply triggered a pang of anxiety. It was a battle, constantly reminding myself that one person's betrayal didn't define everyone else. My therapist was instrumental in this, helping me unpack those ingrained fears and develop healthier ways of approaching new connections. One of the unexpected positive outcomes was a deeper bond with my family and friends. When I finally opened up to them, they didn't judge. They simply offered unwavering support. My sister, especially, was a rock. She'd call me every day, sometimes just to talk about mundane things, sometimes just to listen to me vent about the divorce proceedings. That network of genuine, unconditional love reminded me of what real connection looks like, a stark contrast to the superficiality of my marriage. I also realized that I had neglected parts of myself during the marriage, molded myself to fit Sarah's expectations. Her constant critiques had slowly chipped away at my confidence, making me doubt my choices, my hobbies, even my sense of humor. Getting back into my old passions, hiking, photography, even just spending quiet evenings reading, felt like rediscovering long-lost parts of my own identity. I learned that being alone wasn't the same as being lonely. It was an opportunity for self-discovery, for rebuilding a relationship with myself that was stronger and more authentic than ever before. This period of self-reflection was crucial. It wasn't about finding someone new to fill the void, but about becoming whole again on my own. I wanted to be a person who was happy and complete, not someone desperately seeking external validation. The idea of brutal revenge had evolved from wanting to see her suffer to wanting to see myself thrive. And as I slowly pieced myself back together, stronger and wiser, I understood that my thriving was the ultimate, most profound form of payback. It was living well, truly well, that left her in the dust of her own making. And that, in itself, was a powerful, silent victory. One of the most challenging aspects I faced after the divorce was rebuilding my understanding of what a healthy relationship truly entailed. Sarah had conditioned me to believe that constant drama, subtle manipulation, and walking on eggshells were just normal parts of marriage. It took a lot of unlearning to realize that mutual respect, open communication, and genuine kindness are the foundational pillars. I started paying attention to how I felt around people. Did I feel uplifted or drained? Did I feel heard or dismissed? I also had to confront my own complicity in the dynamic. Not in the cheating, of course, but in enabling her behavior. I had often prioritized her happiness over my own, ignored my gut feelings to avoid conflict, and made excuses for her dismissiveness. It was a painful realization, acknowledging my part in allowing the toxicity to fester. But this self-awareness was vital for growth. It taught me to set boundaries, to articulate my needs, and to demand the respect I deserve, not just from future partners, but from everyone in my life. I even started volunteering at a local animal shelter. It was something completely new, a way to connect with something pure and uncomplicated. The unconditional affection of the animals, the simple joy of making a difference, grounded me in a way I hadn't experienced in years. It was a stark contrast to the transactional and manipulative nature of my previous relationship. It reminded me that there's still so much goodness in the world, so much genuine connection to be found, if you just open yourself up to it. The brutal revenge I had once envisioned truly transmuted. It wasn't about her losing her job or her reputation, though those things happened. It wasn't about inflicting pain. It was about me gaining an incredible, invaluable education in resilience, self-worth, and authentic love. It was about transforming the ashes of my old life into a stronger, more beautiful foundation for a new one. The man who sat crying on the kitchen floor all those months ago was gone. In his place was someone scarred, but also incredibly stronger, wiser, and, for the first time in a very long time, truly free. My future wasn't defined by her past actions. It was defined by my own present choices. The journey wasn't without its setbacks, of course. There were days when a random song on the radio, or a familiar scent, would trigger a flash of anger or sadness so intense it would stop me in my tracks. I learned to acknowledge these moments, to sit with the discomfort rather than try to suppress it. My therapist called it grief waves, and understanding that they were a normal part of the healing process helped immensely. It wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a sign that I was processing, not ignoring. I also made a conscious effort to forgive myself for not seeing the signs sooner, for investing so much in a relationship that ultimately proved to be a lie. Self-compassion became a crucial part of my recovery. It's easy to blame yourself when betrayed, to pick apart every interaction and wonder what you could have done differently. But I learned that I couldn't have prevented someone else's choices, and blaming myself only prolonged the suffering. My responsibility was to heal myself, not to carry the burden of her deceit. About 2 years after the divorce, I met someone new. Her name is Emily. She's everything Sarah wasn't: kind, open, incredibly genuine, and she possesses a quiet strength that I deeply admire. We took things very slowly, and I was upfront with her about my past, my fears, and my trust issues. She listened patiently, without judgment, and her understanding was a balm to my scarred soul. With her, I learned that true intimacy isn't about grand gestures, but about small, consistent acts of kindness, honesty, and mutual respect. We're not rushing into anything, just enjoying the journey of building something real and authentic together. The fear is still there sometimes, a tiny voice in the back of my head, but it's getting quieter. I've learned that you can't live your life paralyzed by past pain. You have to take calculated risks to open your heart again, even if it's scary. Because the alternative, living in perpetual fear and isolation, is far worse than any potential heartbreak. I'm finding joy again, real joy, the kind that comes from a place of peace and self-acceptance. And that, more than anything, feels like the ultimate, undeniable victory over the brutality of her betrayal. My life, my real life, truly began after she left. Last chance. If you've been on this ride with me and found it impactful, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. It's truly appreciated. Thanks for letting me share my story here. Looking back now, the whole brutal experience, while agonizing, became the most profound education of my life. I used to think revenge was about making the other person suffer, about settling scores. But true revenge, the kind that actually heals and empowers you, is about completely disconnecting from their chaos and building a life so rich and fulfilling that their actions no longer have power over you. It's about taking away their ability to hurt you. That's the ultimate power move. My journey taught me several invaluable lessons, which I hope might help someone else out there going through something similar. First, trust your gut. That nagging feeling, that knot in your stomach, it's almost always right. Don't rationalize away red flags just because you love someone or want to believe the best in them. Your intuition is your most powerful protector. Second, get professional help. Seriously, a therapist isn't just for crises. They provide an objective space to process trauma, understand your own patterns, and develop healthy coping mechanisms. It's an investment in yourself that pays dividends for years. Third, lean on your support system. Your friends and family who truly care will be there for you, even if you push them away initially. Let them in. Their love and belief in you are crucial lifelines. Fourth, understand that the other person's actions are a reflection of them, not a reflection of your worth. It's incredibly difficult to internalize this when you feel broken, but their choices are about their character, their insecurities, their capacity for deceit. It has nothing to do with whether you are enough. You are enough. Finally, allow yourself to grieve, but then commit to rebuilding. It won't be easy, and it won't be quick, but every small step you take towards healing, towards reclaiming your identity, towards finding joy again, is a monumental victory. Don't let someone else's brutality define the rest of your life. Instead, let it be the catalyst for the strongest, most authentic version of yourself you've ever been. My life is genuinely better now, not despite what happened, but because of the profound lessons it forced me to learn. I found my strength in the wreckage, and if I can do it, so can you. Hang in there, Reddit. You're stronger than you think.